Oh, yeah, welcome back to the Arise Exchange. Let's on board Lukman Edu, one of the co-founders and the CEO at Itana, that Nigerian tech company that signed on a $100 million partnership with the Africa Finance Corporation and others a few days ago in New York. A very good evening to you. Welcome and congratulations on this deal.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Well, what does this partnership agreement or deal with the EFC mean to you and your team at Itana Africa?
Wow. Well, we really appreciate AFC for the confidence they have in us. It's a very ambitious project, right? So for AFC to come in with such a large investment, it shows their faith and their passion to develop Africa. And me and my co-founder, we're in our mid-30s, right? So very humbled by their trust and faith in us to be able to build this very ambitious and I think a milestone project for Africa and the tech and service ecosystem in Africa, especially Nigeria, where we're from.
How do you plan to differentiate Itana Africa from other global tech hubs like the Silicon Valley, the DIFC, especially in terms of attracting international businesses to operate and sign on from within Nigeria, within Africa?
So I think that I would compare Itana to Delaware firstly, right? So Delaware is there to establish and operate a business in the US. We've seen what Estonia is to Europe, right? For companies that are trying to penetrate the Europe market, and what DIFC is for Dubai. And what we came to think about was how can we create the largest impact to Africa? And why doesn't Africa have a similar model, right? So Itana is very specific, right? Our goal is to incentivize and to enable global businesses to scale into Africa, right? And African startups to be able to scale across Africa, right? So we're comparable to them in that, but our goal is Africa, right? And this is the first digital economic zone for Africa, a gateway to building a global business in Nigeria for Africa, right? So that's the first thing I would say, right? That is probably more similar to a Delaware than a Silicon Valley. It's fully remote and online. And what it is that you can go online onto the Itana app from anywhere in the world and remotely incorporate your business and get a business license that will allow you to open up an international bank account in Nigeria for Africa, get access to the Nigerian talent pool, get access to vendors and services, be able to do your tax filings online, be able to do your visa processing online, get work permits online, right? All from anywhere in the world, right? So you can essentially run a business from your computer, right, with ease.
So in terms of specific benefits, you talk about tax, I'm talking about tax incentives, regulatory incentives. What other things do you think this will bring onto the table for Nigeria and for Africa, for those who will be participating and doing business within this digital economic zone that you are building in Lagos?
So I'll take this there's two phases to this, right? And then by the grace of God, we've been able to succeed and achieve the first phase of Itana when it comes to policy and business incentives. So under the NEPSA, there's the NEPSA Act, right? That is the fundamental law in which we are building this zone from. It's the same law that has been able to enable the Dangote refinery, for example, which was the $20 billion, I believe, investment, the Lekki Seaport. So we're all based on the same NEPSA Act. So what we're able to do was to amend that act, right, to be able to extend those benefits that normally, it's a 30-year-old act, to extend those benefits that normally has been incentivizing businesses in the oil and gas and the manufacturing sector, and extend those benefits to be able to extend to the tech and digital services, right? So that's the first part. So what that means is that now through Itana, tech companies can get the license and get all the incentives that you get to being a free zone company in Nigeria, which means you get tax incentives when you when you provide businesses across Africa, apologies, right? So this, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It's a bit patchy, but I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, so this includes business corporate income tax. This includes visa tax, so you can get work permits. This includes being able to operate in foreign currency. This includes opening up a bank account and being able to repatriate capital out of Nigeria, right? That's one of the biggest challenges that FDI faces coming into Nigeria, is the ability to repatriate their capital. So as a free zone entity, you have the ability to repatriate your capital without filling out Form M. You'll be able to create work permits without expatriate quotas and all these benefits. And then there's also the arbitration center to be able to have fair justice and things like that. So that's the first phase, right? Where what we have done is that we have been able to provide those incentives also to the sector that we're focused on, right? Now, apart from that, right, we're now, I don't know if you heard, it was in the news a couple of weeks back, right, where the president of Nigeria established a steering committee chaired by the president himself, and he included people like the CBN governor, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Immigration, the chairman of FIRS, and that presidential steering committee was set up for them to be able to then look at this and enable further policies, right, to make this a globally competitive zone, right? We, including AFC, including PwC, Future Africa, are actually, we also have a policy advocacy group, and we are the representative of the private sector in that committee chaired by the president, right, to be able to seek further incentives and laws to make this more ideal for the tech ecosystem. So we have the zone. We have been licensed as the first digital economic free zone management company. So companies are coming into our zone now, right? We already have the first batch of companies in the zone, and they're able to get that first tier level of incentives we've spoken about, right? Which is the same that businesses in other free zones can get, but now as a tech and service sector. But now where we are now is that we're now working on further incentives, right, to see how we can get better tax incentives, be able to enable global banking or offshore bank FDI in the country. And obviously, by the grace of God, what we intend to do is hopefully we'll see more unicorns come out of Africa, right? Yes, because of these kind of business incentives.
Yes, more unicorns out of Africa. But again, isn't it better to come out of Nigeria? Well, God, it's one Africa, by the way. Yes. It's Open Skies Africa. Thank you so much. Great news about what you folks are doing in Nigeria and the wider African region. Thank you so much, all the support you're getting. Lukman Edu, co-founder and CEO at Itana Africa, do have a great weekend there out of New York.